Ah, Vermithor, the Bronze Fury, as if giving them names makes them more civilized. Tell me, what kind of man stands in front of something that can melt a castle and says, yes, let's name it like a horse? They say he bent the knee to Rhaenyra Targaryen, that he remembered her blood, her father, her claim. Poetic nonsense. Dragons don't care about your family tree unless it's on fire. I've lived long enough to know dragons are beasts. Glorious, terrifying, magnificent. Yes, but beasts all the same. You can dress them up in history and prophecy if it makes you feel better. Sing your songs and polish your sigils. But in the end, a dragon does one thing. It burns what's in front of it. The only question is whether it finds you useful before it does. And Rhaenyra, well, she was useful. Not because of her name, not because of her blood, but because she walked up to death and didn't blink. And that, my dear, is rare. Rarer than magic, rarer than honor, rarer than a man keeping his word past breakfast. That's what Vermithor saw. Not a queen by birth, but a woman already burned, through and through. She didn't smell like fear. She didn't smell like ambition either, though there's always a bit of that in the blood. No, she smelled like resolve, like she'd already decided who needed to die, and was simply choosing the order. And don't look at me like that. I'm old, not blind. I've seen that look before. You'll find it in the eyes of mothers at war, or widows who smile at executions. It's not rage exactly, it's a kind of stillness. The calm just before someone ruins everything. The others who tried to claim the beast, fools. Pretty little boys in armor, reciting their house words like that ever meant anything. They thought if they stood tall enough or shouted loud enough, the dragon would obey. But dragons don't obey. They decide. And Vermithor decided. He looked at her and saw something he hadn't seen in decades. Someone who wasn't pretending. That's the trick, you see. Most rulers play at strength. They puff up, strut around, shout about destiny. But real power doesn't shout. It waits, quiet, patient, like a woman watching a man dig his own grave with each sentence. Rhaenyra stood there like she already knew how this story ended. And the dragon, he knew it too. Maybe he remembered Jaehaerys. Old King Wisdom, they called him. I met him once. Smelled like parchment and compromise. But even that old man had a spine when it counted. Maybe the dragon remembered that somewhere deep in his bones. Or maybe, just maybe, he saw that Rhaenyra didn't need reminding. The others, they wanted the throne. She already was the throne. Do you understand the difference? She wasn't reaching for it, she wasn't asking. That's what power looks like. It doesn't ask. That's what makes men nervous, by the way. A woman who doesn't need permission. Oh, they'll dress it up in rules and customs and bloodlines. But really it's fear. Fear that someone might sit the throne and not care how they look doing it. And dragons? Dragons know fear. They've seen the inside of 1,000 screams. But they also know something else. Something simpler. They know hunger, not just for flesh, for fury, for purpose. Rhaenyra fed that hunger, not with songs or symbols, but with silence, with stillness, with the kind of fire that doesn't roar, it just waits. So yes, the great bronze fury bent the knee. Not because she was Targaryen. That name's been passed around like a cheap goblet. No. He bent because she smelled of ash and intent, because everything that wasn't essential had already burned away. And that, my dear, is what makes her dangerous. She doesn't want to rule for power. She wants to rule because there's no one left worth following. And a dragon can smell the difference. The others, they reek of desperation. Of fathers whispering behind doors, of banners stitched by frightened hands. But Rhaenyra? She smelled of finality. Like the last page of a book. Like a blade that's already been swung. And that is why the dragon knelt. Not to a queen, but to an end. But listen to me ramble. You must be wondering what all this has to do with you. Everything. Because you're still playing the game like it's chess. You think if you move carefully, one step here, one alliance there, you'll survive long enough to win. But let me give you a bit of advice. No one wins. They just last longer than the rest. You want to make history? Stop trying to play it safe. Stop chasing thrones with borrowed names and tired oaths. Be the fire. Be the reason the old beasts bow their heads. Not because you asked, but because you made everything else too small to matter. Just remember this, fire is not loyal. It will burn your enemies, yes, but it will burn you too if you forget what you are, and if you're lucky. If you're very, very lucky. When the last dragon lowers its head, it won't be out of fear, it will be out of respect. And that, in the end, is the only kind of power worth having. Apparently, you're supposed to press some button. Subscribe, they call it, so you don't miss more of my prattle. I don't see the point, but there it is. Go on then, press it before I lose patience. And there's a bell too, I'm told. What it does, I haven't the faintest idea. Ring it, if it pleases you.